Hello friends, my name is Dalit Soni and you are watching Drishti IAS. As you are aware that we are done with the general election 2024, result has been announced and there is a government which has been formed under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But the catch is that this is a coalition government. When we are talking about coalition government, there are various discourses or the public opinion which are there in the discussion. There is one side which says that whenever there is a coalition government, they focus more on the stability of the government rather than the policy issues or the developmental aspects. And then there is other side which says that whenever there is a coalition government at the center, the federal structure of the country gets strengthened. So there are various aspects, there are various you can say opinion with respect to the coalition government. In this video, we'll be talking about the impact of coalition government on policy measures, or you can say political aspects, economical aspect, foreign policy related issues, or the federal structure, etc., etc. So let's start our discussion. So when we are talking about the current elections, when we see after the elections of 18th Lok Sabha, we have come up with a coalition government that is led by NDA, that is National Democratic Alliance, starting their term from 2024. But if we talk about the history, if we will see that this is not the first time there is this coalition government. We have witnessed coalition governments various times. There was this time of 1989. After that, for a long time we have witnessed 1989. After that, for a long time we have witnessed the coalition governments. But in the last 10 years, 2014 to 2019 and then 2019 to 2024, these two terms were you can say these were the time when government had a majority. That time also the government was under BJP ruled party, okay, and the leadership was under Narendra Modi. So at this point of time, we can say that we had a majority at that point of time, and after 10 years of that particular majority, now we are back to the coalition government. So let's start our discussion. With the 18th Lok Sabha election results and the formation of the NDA government at the center, the coalition government has been a point of discussion. Until 2014 Lok Sabha election, India had had a coalition government for 21 years. 10 years later, India once again has a coalition government in power. Okay. Other than that, if we see what is coalition government, so whenever there is a coalition government, that means that there is no single party which is having a majority. So there are various parties which are coming together and they are forming a government. Obviously, when there are various parties which are coming together, so obviously they have to agree on a common ground. Okay, so that when they agree to a common ground, then it is called a coalition government. Here you can see coalition government formed by coming together of at least two political parties. Usually partners in the coalition forms a political alliance and adopt a common program. Okay, so they will come up with a political alliance and they will have a terms and conditions and they will form a common program. Okay, because when we are talking about various different political parties or two or more political parties, that means that they will have various interests, they will have various different ideologies as well. Okay, coalition can either be a pre-poll coalition or a post-election. Okay, so they can go for the pre-poll before the elections. Also they can go for the alliances, and if not, then they can go for the alliances afterwards as well. Okay, this type of government consists of multiple political parties or individuals working together, sometimes with a different ideologies and different viewpoints. Okay, as I told you, they might have different interests and they may have different ideologies. Now, what is the history of the coalition government? In India, we see that this coalition government or the rise of the coalition government starts from 1977 with Morarji Desai's government. But the thing is, this is not the first time. When we talk about the interim government which was formed in 1946, that is interim government which was formed, that was also a coalition government. Afterwards, when we got independence and we have formed the first government, that was after 1947, Indian government was there. So at that point of time, also we had a, you can say, government which was kind of a coalition government. Okay, so this is not the first time, and it has been there in the Indian politics since then. Coalition at the national level caught public attention in 1977 when Morarji Desai formed the first non-Congress. Okay, when we are talking about this 1977, this was the first time public noticed it. Like there can be a phenomena like a coalition government, because when we are talking about the time of 1946-47, at that point of time, public was not very politically aware. Okay, for them at that point of time, there are few leaders which was important, and they actually formed the government at that when we are talking about the interim government or the government after the 1947. Okay, So this is the first time under the Morarji Desai they have seen that this is a phenomena which has introduced in the Indian politics. Okay. However, we find that 1977 was not the country's first brush with the international coalition. As I told you, 1946 interim government just before the independence and the first government formed after the independence in 1947, they were both coalition government. Now the reason was totally different at that point of time because Prime Minister Nehru followed the coalition template in independent India's first Council of Ministers because he was of this opinion that best mind should be in the Council of Ministers. So that was the intention behind that. So for example, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar from the law, or you can say specialty, having specialties in the law. Then R.K. Shanmukham, he was there with respect to the specialties in the finance. Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee in the industries and the supplies. So we can say that in his coalition, or you can say in his Council of Ministers, there were various specialists from their arenas were there, and that is why it was seen as a coalition government. Okay. After that, if we see, with the elections of 1989, long phase of coalition government began in India. This is the time after, you can say, Rajiv Gandhi's time, that is 1984 to 89. Okay, afterwards, that was the time period when there was this Lok Sabha. Okay, so after that, we have seen that a long phase of coalition politics begin in India. Since then till 2014, you can say, all of which have either been a coalition government or a minority government supported by the other parties which did not join the government. So basically there were, coalition governments or the government which having a support from the, minority from the outside. Okay, so since then 1989 till 2014 we have seen such governments or the coalition governments. Afterwards 2014 to 24 we have witnessed a single party, or you can say majority government at that point of time. Okay, now coming to the next part, that is basically what are the merits and the demerits of the coalition government. If we see the merits, more diverse representative governments. Okay, since there are more than two parties, or you can say there are two parties or more than two parties which are forming a coalition, that means that they are representing various ideologies, they are representing various interests, they are representing various sections of the society. Okay, and they are representing various regions as well. Considering that this kind of government will be more diverse and more representative. Strengthen the center-state relations. As I told you in the start of the lecture, as I told you that the coalition government will strengthen the federal structure. Why? Because of the various parties coming together, they have different interests, okay, from different areas, different regions, they are coming together. That will strengthen the federal structure. Okay, that is basically your, you can say, strengthening the center-state relations. Okay, then more deliberation in and discussions in the decision making. Okay, if there is a single majority party, okay, if there is a single party government, okay, so in that point, in that regard, you will understand that if there is a policy decision, they will take a quick decision because they have their government and they do not have to worry about the vote of confidence, no confidence, etc. Okay, so they don't have to worry about the stability of the government. Okay, they don't have to actually take care of all the interest, or they don't have to actually bargain with other parties. At that point of time, they will take decisions with or without discussions. But if there is a coalition government, you have to make sure that all the stakeholders are on the same page. They are following a common program. That is why you will see in coalition governments, there will be more deliberation and discussions in the decision making. Okay, so these are the merits. Coming to the demerits, or you can say what are the negative points about it. First is political instabilities. Because there are various parties, there is a fear that they will withdraw the support. Okay, and that is why the domestic politics will be in instability. So that is why the most of the time government is trying to make sure that government remains there, or it remains stable when we are talking about in the parliament. Okay, so that is one thing. Second, diminishes the authority of the cabinet, and the cabinet is prone to internal struggles. Okay, if there is a single majority party, so the cabinet ministers are from that particular party, so internally they will have a consensus. Okay, but if there are various parties, they are coming from various parties and forming a council of ministers or the cabinet, at that point of time you have to make sure that all these are on the same point. But again, since their interests are different, their ideologies are different, so there can be a internal struggle. Okay, so ultimately you can say that is prone to internal struggles. Difficulty in building consensus, as I told you, they are coming from the different ideologies and interests. That is why decision making will be difficult, because consensus cannot be built, or sometimes it will take more time. So there cannot be a quick decision making. Okay, so that is about the demerit. Moving further, coalition government's impact on various aspects. If we'll see economic reforms or the economic policies, so it is general perception that coalition government, if there is a coalition government, there is most of the time they will be focusing on the stability of the government. So they will not focus more on the developmental or the policy aspect, etc. So ultimately you will see that any kind of concrete change in the policy cannot be brought. Okay, so that is what that is one aspect attached to it. But if we see the history, in 1990, as I told you, after 1989 we have witnessed the time of coalition, but we have also gone for the reforms in 1990s. When we are talking about the economic reforms, LPG reforms, etc., these reforms taken place in the 1990s. Okay, so there are some positives as well as the negative. Okay, coming to the impact here, the nature of the government at the center widely shaped the economic policy of the country, since the ideologies of the ruling party get reflected in the macro and micro economic policies. Okay, when there is a single majority ruling party in the center, it can have a salutary effect on the trajectory of the economic reforms, because they don't have to discuss much about it. They can take quick decisions. They know that they are having a majority, so there is no you can say fear of the government support being withdrawn, okay, or the fall of the government. Okay, because of which single party majority, they can take quick decisions and the harsh decisions as well as sometimes. Okay, but when there is a coalition government at the center, impact of various viewpoints, regional parties that are part of the coalition plays a key role in the initiatives of the government, and building consensus among the different parties becomes challenging, and that is why you cannot take major policy decisions. Okay, but there are times, as I told you, there are certain examples. Since 1991, this is the time of the coalition government, but yet we have gone for the you can say economic reforms. We have gone for the major economic reforms, if we say, which has changed the shape of India's economy. Okay, so at that point of time we had a coalition government, but we did take a bold and visionary move with respect to the LPG economic reforms under the leadership of Narasimha Rao. Okay, after that we had the government under Deve Gowda. Okay, they have also gone for the tax cut, or you can say cutting in the tax rates, because they had this opinion that taxpayers, they have this faith in the taxpayers. Okay, so they have gone for the cuts in the tax rates. Okay, then moving further, you will see that in at the time of the Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government, or you can say NDA led government, at that point of time, fiscal responsibility and the budget management law has been enacted. Afterwards, this investment proceedings also started for the PSUs which were not making profit at that point of time. Okay, so you can see that they have taken such concrete policy decisions in field of economy despite being a coalition government. Okay, other than that also, if we talk about the developmental or the infrastructure projects, Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana was outcome of Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government at that point of time, and it was also a coalition government. So we can say that if coalition government is well structured, then they can take decisions. So it is not an inherent demerit that they might not be going for the concrete decisions or the policy making. Okay, now moving further to the next part, that is center state relations. Okay, most of the time it is said that whenever there is a single party, okay, so they will have this kind of tendency that they will control, or they will have a centralized ruling. Okay, but if there is a coalition party, so coalition government, so in the coalition government there are various parties from different regions. Okay, and these different regions actually represent different aspirations of the people. So they you can understand that from different states there are certain parties which are supporting the government at the center. So obviously they will put forward their demands, they will put forward their interest, they will be a voice of their interest. So ultimately it will impact the federal structure, it will strengthen the federal structure. Okay, the coalition government at the center impacts the federal structure as well. When multiple center of power in the form of regional parties become the part of the national coalition government, they put efforts in fulfilling their own interest, thus shaping federal dynamics of the country, sometimes in the form of cooperative federalism and the competitive federalism. Okay, when they are supporting the each other, they are supporting the moves by different states by the central government, that is a cooperative federalism. And then competitive federalism means that if there is a particular state which is performing better, okay, and the center is incentivizing them, so other state will also get inspired to perform better, so that they can also get performance based incentives. Okay, so that is basically example of your competitive federalism. Okay, Now, coming to the next part over here, impact on the foreign policy, it is generally thought that since coalition government is there, so domestic government or the government is kind of unstable over there. So the focus of the parties is to make sure that government remains. So you will focus more on the domestic issues, and there are chances that you might sideline the foreign policy issues. Okay, so that is the general perception. But again, there are different examples which we have seen in the past, which says that that is not necessarily true. Okay, so when we are talking about the you can say era of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, we have gone for the nuclear test, etc. Okay, when we are talking about the Narasimha Rao's regime, we have gone for the opening up of our economy. Okay, so these are also some, you can say, decisions which were of having a impact on the global level. Okay, when we are talking about the LPG reforms, okay, so this has a global impact. When we are talking about the nuclear test, etc., this was also a foreign policy related issue. Okay, so saying that a coalition government might not do as well on the foreign policy front as strong single party government, the government has catered to the whims and fancies of the coalition partners, thereby preventing the bold foreign policy. So this is one aspect of it. Now, seeing here, you can say there are three assumptions why we are talking about it. Because first, when there is a single party or you can say majority party, so leader will be strong. Okay, if leader is strong, that means he will go for a better foreign policy outcomes, because that there is a political backing to him. Okay, so that is one thing. Second thing is, whenever coalition government in general struggle to make strong foreign policy choices, because they are basically trying to save the government. Okay, so that is the second assumption. Third is that it is also believed that the single party can negotiate better foreign counterparts, withstand any external pressure more effectively than the coalition government, because they are more focused on the you can say policy measures and not on the domestic issues. Okay, then however, coalition government has also generally done well in the past foreign policy questions, as I already discussed that at the time of the Narasimha Rao's government, we were going through various crises. Okay, there was this poly crisis. Okay, we have actually this issue of insurgency with respect to terrorism, etc. in Jammu and Kashmir. We had issues of economic challenges like BOP crisis, etc. at that point of time. Other than that, India-Pakistan tensions were there. Loss of Russia as a strategic partner, we will see. Then US pressure on India's nuclear program, etc. At that point of time, such pressure was there, but still we managed to go for the economic reforms. We managed to actually make sure that our economy does not collapse. Okay, so that was the foreign policy issues which has foreign policy decision which has been taken by the coalition government led by the Narasimha Rao, because at that point of time Congress only had 232 seats only. Okay, so for the majority you need 272. So that was also a coalition government. Moving further, one of the most consequential decision about the India's security policy, the nuclear test of 1998, which was made under the BJP leader Atal Bihari Vajpayee, was running a coalition government at that point of time with even lesser seats, that is 182 seats. Okay, so we can say that despite everything, okay, despite various challenges which can be faced, ultimate aim is that if you are having a properly structured government, then they can go for the decision making. So these assumptions that coalition government cannot perform well because they are more focused on the stability of the government than the domestic and the foreign policy related issues, but that is not true. If you are having a well structured government, so it can work fine. Okay, with that I would like to wrap this video over here. If you have not subscribed the channel, please subscribe it. Have a nice day. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.